Hi. Oh, look, it works. Okay. Hello, welcome, 10th and 11th graders. Um, so we missed this trip, obviously, last year, and that's why we wanted to have, so normally this is a trip that 10th grade goes on. Some of you, I cannot believe who are in 10th grade, like the last time I saw were in 8th grade, went on our inaugural 8th grade trip when we went to Los Angeles. We now have trips every year for 8th through 12th grade. So, which is so exciting. Of course, we kicked that off and then COVID hit. So, we're trying to figure out how to get trips going. This one is the earliest of the trips, so I know that's some consideration because this one's in January and the other trips that we're doing for the grades are a little bit later, but that's because this is a very different trip. So as all of the trips started for high school 8th through 12th, it really started with this 10th grade trip. The Religious Action Center Reform Judaism is our parent organization in Washington, D.C. So we at Congregation Beth Israel, we are a member of the Union for Reform Judaism, right? So we're a member of the Reform movement, this movement throughout North America and Canada, and there's lots of different pieces of that, and there's lots of different benefits of being attached to this large organization. And one of them is that we have a political advocacy arm in Washington, D.C. So this is an organization, we were the first in the Jewish world to have an advocacy arm in D.C. It again really shows the roots of our movement based in social justice. And they started this program for high school students really around 10th grade because that was the year that so many people do confirmation. And we were one of the very early adopters on the West Coast. My understanding from Rabbi Rose, which may or may not be true, was we were the first congregation west of the Rockies to do this. So we were before Los Angeles, we were before Seattle. All of that is that he really thought it was important. Rabbi Rose of blessed memory, who was a rabbi here for 47 years and was so steeped in social justice that teens would go to DC and learn about advocacy. So we have been doing this trip, I don't even know.
I mean, Rabbi, and I had heard that we were also the first, so
Yeah.
the tales must be true.
Two of us had heard it, it makes it true.
So what would that be? Have we been doing it for 30?
It probably at least. So at least, I mean, I went on this trip when not here, I grew up in Cincinnati. I went on this trip when I was in high school. I mean, I should have looked up to see how long it's been around, but at least 30 years. I mean, I went 30 years ago. So that is how important it is for our congregation and why we make such a big deal about it and why we want to encourage you all to go on this trip. How many of you have older siblings that have gone on this trip? Yes. Like actually, I like that. It's like the majority of you have seen older siblings going on the trip. So those of you that have had older siblings going on the trip, are you going on the trip? I see some head nods. And hopefully this time we'll be able to solidify those like chetzis into that we're doing it, that we're going on the whole trip.
I think we do need to solidify that because it is going to be awesome. When you were saying that the Reform movement has a political arm in Washington, D.C., like, is that kind of new information to some of you? That's pretty interesting, right? That your movement has that, and a lot of times we get asked. Okay, Hello's got chamber. A lot of times we get asked, who decides what we're even talking about? And you're really part of the rabbinic body that kind of helps inform what issues the RAC lobbies on. Because a lot of times, kids are like, hey, can I talk about this or can I talk about that? This is really important to me. And we say yes. And your reform movement has, through decisions by the rabbis and other leaders, taken a stand on issues. And we'll talk a little bit about
Yeah,
more of that later.
that might be
Yeah,
a little bit confusing.
But I just want you to know, if you are like, my issue is environmentalism, and I want to go to Washington and talk about that you will be able to do that. And there'll also be all these other issues that we'll learn about, but I jump ahead.
No, I know, because I think that
I'm so excited.
I know.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm so excited that we can talk about this.
Two actual humans.
I know.
And in Zoom.
Patty, I want to go out of order a little bit. Let's actually show the video now. So you talk a little bit more. So we're going to show you a little promotional video so you can get a taste, a little flavor of what it's like to experience.
Yes, no actors were used in this video. They're all real live students and lobbyists and rabbis.
Are we good to go? All right.
The Bernard and Audrey Rappaport Litaken Teen Social Justice Seminar is for groups to come here with their teens to Washington to connect with Judaism and social justice and to help make a difference in the world. We know that so many congregations currently have trips with their teens, and this trip, everything is taken care of. The hotel, the places we visit, the educational opportunities, and we have very rich, high educational content. But not only that, it's fun, because the teens are here with hundreds of other students from across the country. And it's an opportunity for your group to come together, to bond, to connect the students with one another, as well as the adult chaperones who come with them.
As a high school student, coming here with my 10th grade confirmation class, Litaken opened my eyes to social justice and Judaism. I didn't really understand how much social justice was a part of being a Reformed Jew. And coming here and learning about issues and lobbying and feeling empowered forever shaped my understanding and my belief that as Jews we have an obligation to change the world and what our movement says about so many important issues.
Social justice has definitely affected how I view my Judaism, especially after coming to Litaken and now for the second time. It really has strengthened my sense of belonging in the Jewish community with the fact that my interest in social justice has so much overlap with my religion, and that's a really cool feeling.
Havdalah service at Jefferson Memorial is always one of my favorite things. Like last night, we had a wonderful night. I think when I stand there and I watch all the candles lit, and I look at the Jefferson Memorial behind and the monument across the water, I always think the same thing of how lucky we are to have this service and celebrate a special piece of the week for ourselves and share this with our kids.
I've absolutely loved my first experience at Litaken. I am beyond blown away with the amount of resources, enthusiasm, and the incredible skills that my teens are learning that have been prepared for by the RAC, by their staff, and perhaps more importantly by engaging with all the other congregations and students from around the country. It's been an amazing experience for them to meet other students whose views they agree with, whose views they disagree with, but to see the same passion about being Jewish, about being American, and about trying to create change in our world. I would say this is an amazing program, something you absolutely have to do. What I am so excited about with this program is the skills that my students are learning in terms of making an impact on the national reform movement in speaking truth to power here in Washington, D.C., but it's also the same leadership skills of advocacy, of organizing, and of learning about your Jewish values and how it applies back in our home congregation. I cannot wait for them to use these skills in their youth groups, their high schools, our city councils, our state legislatures. They're not just learning how to work for the RAC and do things here, but learning the skills of social justice that can apply in so many different parts of their life and will be so crucially beneficial to our entire congregation.
Okay.
Okay, so gives you a little bit of a taste and the difference between this, and I just hate this thing here.
Okay.
The difference between this trip and the other trips that we do is that we're joining teens from around the country. So that's one of the things that makes it really special, that hopefully that you saw, is that we're gonna join, the numbers are less this year. So it used to be like 500 teens from around the country would gather. They do 6 to 8 weekends a year, but they're doing much fewer students in each weekend to keep it a little bit more spread out. But it's still gonna be 100 or 200 other teens in these huge hotels. So there's plenty of room, plenty of space, but it's really nice because you get to then like be the cool kids from Oregon.
Oh, may I?
Yes.
You guys are gonna be like rock stars. It's like you're from another planet.
Yeah.
And nobody can say Oregon. They're like, these guys are from Oregon. I mean, it's like everybody's gonna want to talk with you. Like everybody wants to know about Portland. You know, everybody thinks the city's on fire. We're fine, thank you. But just know it's really exciting for other kids to meet kids from Oregon.
Yeah.
Because we are the coolest state. We know that.
We're the
You know
coolest.
that.
And a lot of times we are coming the furthest. And so we get those points. But actually one year it was really fun. I was talking to my rabbi friend in Connecticut, and he was like, yeah, when we got here, all the kids were like, did you see there's a group from Portland? You know, like they're like the cool kids. They haven't even met any of us. And they're like, they're gonna be the cool ones because they're from Portland. So it is really super fun to like,
It must have voodoo donuts like 3 meals a day. I don't know.
Voodoo donuts
Yeah.
and Stumptown coffee, and we are like the awesome people that go. And it is a trip that is both fun because we're going to Washington, D.C. How many people have been to Washington, D.C.? So we're going to D.C. I lived in D.C., just to remind you all, one part of my passion and excitement is that before I became a rabbi, I was a lobbyist in D.C. And so one of my favorite things to do is to take you guys, because we go on sometimes, the secret tour, the Rabbi Joseph secret tour of DC. As Ben likes to say, we have a 100% return policy.
You will all come back.
You will all come back.
Wiser.
But I have definitely broken away from the group and taken us to other things.
The renegade chaperone.
I could be a renegade chaperone on this trip because I love DC so much. But even having lived there for 8 years, having worked in this world for 8 years, I still love going. I still don't get tired of DC. I still don't get tired of the monument. So if you're like, I've been there, I've seen this, it's different. Because it's different when you go with your classmates. It's different when you go with us. It's different when you join teams also from around the country. So that's one aspect of it. And the other aspect is this educational aspect, where you're gonna go, as you saw, and you are gonna learn about social justice issues from a Jewish perspective. So we're doing that in class, you've been doing that, but it's a whole sort of other level.
Next level.
Next level of really digging and delving into these issues and wrestling with what you think about it. So ultimately, each one of you is gonna write a speech in a small group, and you are gonna give a speech to our members of Congress. So you're gonna be transformed over the weekend from learning to actually sitting in the offices and doing. And it is really amazing to watch this transformation and this growth, and especially again with all of these other kids, and we are all here to help you.
It's not a bad resume builder either.
It's a really good resume builder.
Like I wrote a speech and delivered it to a member of Congress and they listened. That's a huge deal, you guys. Come this way.
Yeah, sit down the mic. Can you share screen with the sample schedule? Thank you. Oh, no. The sample schedule. Thank you.
Thank you.
We're also, members of Congress will say over and over again, the most well-prepared. So part of this experience is that you will be so well-prepared. They're used to seeing people who show up and don't know what they're talking about, and like you are going to know what's happening and how to do it. So the sample sketch is on the screen too, so if you don't have it in front of you, you'll be able to see. But just to go over some of what it looks like is that our trip is January 7th, which is soon. So we also have to sign up soon. We leave on Friday morning. We take a direct flight from PDX to DCA. We, unfortunately, because of the time change, even though it's direct and it's the morning, we get there like right in time for Shabbat dinner. So just so you know, we sort of like get off the plane, we go to the hotel, and we like immediately will get to be with people and have Shabbat dinner. What do we need? There isn't any. Oh. Because it's just to like, there are not enough for everyone to have one. It was just to sort of like see on the screen. I didn't want to waste too much paper. And so, you know, there's the Jewish part. So there's the sightseeing, there's the educational learning, and the Jewish obviously is steeped in all of that. So we have Shabbat dinner together, we have a Shabbat service, you know, that's led by different people from around the country, and then we like start programming. So it is definitely an intense time of like, you're gonna immediately on Friday night jump into learning about issues. A lot of times we try and do, and again, it's hard. I don't know how they're gonna set this up with COVID, so I can only tell you what they used to do, but it probably makes sense even in COVID, is that a lot of times we would always eat our meals together because it was just nice to like, sort of be able to touch base with each other around mealtime, and I assume with their protocols, that's just gonna be a given. Programming, they would try and mix people up so that you can meet, again, students from other congregations. You also get some choices, not Friday night, but sometimes you get some choices about what issues you want to learn about. So you'll separate, you know, from each other for that. There's also the fun thing with the time changes. Friday night, everyone's like, yeah, we're gonna party all night. And then we try and wake you up on Saturday morning.
Ooh, grumpy.
Grumpy. Then it starts.
It's
that
the
3-hour time
it's
change,
the West
really.
Coast grump, yeah.
That time change starts kicking in right away. You're feeling real good Friday night, and then.
And you're already inside the Beltway trying to get your IQ up, and you're all tired and everything. So you wanna get some sleep.
Yeah. But Friday, like we're already gonna hit the ground running and do fun things. Saturday is Shabbat, so we will have a Shabbat service. Again, it's a super fun musical service with everybody that's there, and programming begins. You know, you'll be in big programs once again, as you can see here before lunch. Then Saturday afternoon, there's a lot of sightseeing time. We're gonna go, yeah.
Rabbi, who teaches these programs?
Oh yes, so such a great question. So who teaches these programs? The Religious Action Center of Reform Judaism has what are called legislative assistants. I was a legislative assistant once. That's how I ended up being in DC for as long as I did, was after my senior year in college, I applied to be a legislative assistant at the RAC. It's something that you do after you graduate, your first year after college. And basically you do all the legislative stuff with Congress, which we can talk more about later, and you run these weekends. So you have that staff, so these are like recent college grads, first job out of college, and they are so excited to work with you and teach you and not get any sleep.
And the issues that they're lobbying on, you know,
on the Hill, they're gonna teach you about. So they're on the Hill lobbying about this. The Hill is what we call where Congress is. They're on Capitol Hill, and so for short, they call it the Hill. They're up there, you know, they know exactly what's happening day to day, and then they get to teach you during this weekend. Also, we'll help teach too. So all the chaperones and the clergy and everybody also, we all jump in and we help with teaching and programming and all of that. And there are many of us that are former legislative assistants doing this, so we frequently get thrown into bigger roles because we know we can do that, and it's super fun. So you're gonna get lots of different teaching, not from us, but from all sorts of people that are in DC, which is really nice.
It's really cool. I mean, we've all had those teachers that for whatever reason, don't bring their A game, or they, you know what I mean? Like, we all know who the teachers are that we love. These teachers, these students are so fired up and interesting and can really just inspire you to think about what you want to do.
We have many students. Isn't your sister decided to go to college in DC because of Litaken? Yes? Yeah, I mean, that's what she said to me. So there's a testimonial, and she's not the only one, right?
So you're now to pay out-of-state tuition because our trip is so awesome.
Our trip is so awesome that she's going to college in DC right now.
School in DC,
yeah. So that's how impactful. I mean, because I went on this trip, I also was like, I'm going to work in DC, and I did. So it doesn't have to do that. There are many people that it doesn't set you on your path, but it has lots of potential. That's how good of a program it is. So just quickly, there is social time, especially if you have family in the area and you want to see them. We can help make that happen, connect you to see family or friends when we have some of these open times on Saturday afternoon and Sunday afternoon. But we'll go as a congregational group with other groups. We'll go to the monuments, we go to the Holocaust Museum, we get to hang out in Georgetown.
And she knows where to go where other people don't know.
For a few hours and like do fun things there.
Yeah.
So there's a really good balance of free time and learning in that way.
Absolutely. I think that's right. I mean, we really work hard to learn the issues, and then it's like, you know, Georgetown. And just like, you guys will go off in, you know, small groups and we'll meet you back. And, you know, it's a really fun way to go.
And that's also just for parents to know. We also want to give you guys the opportunity to have time with each other. No one will ever be alone, but we will, you know, we'll figure out our group and we'll bond as our group and we'll each have our number and no one's left behind. But, you know, you guys will go and decide in groups of 4 or whatever, like to have some time in Georgetown without us, which is also really fun. Your sophomores, your juniors, you know, you can do this.
Yeah.
We trust you, and that working out that relationship is really important.
We want you to have fun and be safe, and also you're at high school, you know. So that's really great. I don't want to go too far out of order, but when I used to be a writing teacher, when I saw when we mentioned that you have to write a speech, I saw a couple shoulders like, writing is not my jam. Do not worry. All of you will write something, it will be beautiful, we will work with you, the people that put on the program, you'll practice it, you'll be in groups together. And just know, even if writing is not your jam, it's going to be fine. And don't, you know, let that be like, oh my gosh, I can never do that, because we have taught all different kinds of learners how to do that. Some of you I know are great writers, some of you it's not your thing. But everybody will be successful and supported, and I just don't want that to turn anybody off.
Saturday night, as you saw in the video, we do Havdalah at the Jefferson Memorial, which again is this amazing experience to be at a national monument and expressing our Jewish identity and having Havdalah and sitting there and looking at Jefferson and looking across at MLK and the White House and all the stuff. I mean, it's really just doesn't get old. That site is amazing. More programming and another late night. And then Sunday, again, there's this combination of some programming, free time, not free time, but we're gonna, again, get to be in the city. But Sunday night is the big one where we prep for Monday. Monday is when we go to Capitol Hill and lobby our members. So as Ben was saying, Sunday night, we have all the time where we go and we sit. Again, in the old days, Ben and I would buy bags of junk food. We'd sit down with you guys and you just like eat your Twizzlers and write your speech. That was my favorite. And write your speeches, and we work with you. So you've decided, hey, I really care about climate change. And then 2 other of you are like, yeah, we go through a whole process of figuring out. We also care about climate change. And so the 3 or the 4 of you form a group, and we help you. There's a rubric just like I gave you for your B'nai Mitzvah speeches. We have the same thing for Congress of how do you write the speech? How do you split it up amongst the people? You spend time doing it. And then the legislative assistants help you, and you have to actually run it by them before they let you press print and make sure that it's okay. They even bring in other lobbyists from DC that night to like say, okay, everybody's talking about reproductive justice, come down at this time. And then you've got all these like lobbyists that are helping you, reminding you, what's the piece of legislation right now, or what's the issue, and then like, let me help you write your speech. So there's tons and tons of support, and that's really what all of Sunday night is, because then Monday you wake up, you put on your fancy clothes, whatever makes your body feel happy, but not jeans, because you are going to Capitol Hill. You put on comfy shoes, because you're going to be walking. Could be snowing, who knows? But we're all going to go up. I wish I should have had a picture of all of our past, some of our fun pictures from our past groups. And we go, and then we split into our different delegations, because how many of you have taken like civics, U.S. government yet? I feel like it's a junior year thing here. That's like
not yet. Okay.
So you'll learn. We will spend some time doing this before the trip. We're gonna talk about all these different things. And is that we have, how many senators do we have? Every state has the same. Oh, but how many senators do we in Oregon have? You are correct. In Oregon, how many do we have? 2. So, and do we all have the same senators, or do we have different senators in Oregon? I don't know how to ask this question. I'm trying to like trick you, but not. The difference between our senators and our representatives, right, is that it doesn't matter where we live in the state, we all have the same 2 senators. But depending on where we live in the state, we have different representatives. Especially like in Portland, for example, some of you might have Bonamici, and some of you might have Blumenauer. Some of you might live further and have DeFazio and other folks as well. So, we're probably not going to get to it. But so we all go to the senators together, and then we split up to go to our House of Representatives members. And we basically do that all day on Monday. And we get to eat up at the Capitol, which is super fun. Sometimes we have time, we'll take a tour, we'll get some tours by our members of Congress, depending on what the timing is. Depending on what's going on during the year, we've had some really exciting things that we've gotten to witness and be a part of. And this has actually been an interesting time, because we're going to be up there right after the anniversary of the insurrection. And I imagine that there's going to be some interesting things. Last time we were there the weekend basically before the shutdown in 2020.
This is my last time on a flight.
My last time too. And well, I guess I mean, you haven't flown at all.
I haven't flown at all. I unicycle frequently in the pandemic.
But when we went right before the shutdown, the government was shut down, remember?
Yeah.
So we actually, it was really amazing, because we were like on the plane, and we're like, we might not be lobbying, which is okay. We had worked everything out, and we had like all these A, B, C, D plans, and we landed, and we like turned our phones on, and we were like, they made a deal, and it was like so crazy, because it was all like,
we thought it was gonna,
we didn't know what we were gonna do. So you never know in DC until the day of what's gonna happen. So we lobby all day, and then we literally go to the airport in our suits and change in the bathroom and to get on a plane and come back. So it is like, we are packed. We get on, there's a direct flight back. Sometimes the governor's on the plane, and you never know who you're gonna see on your flight. And we leave around 5, it ends up putting us back here like 8, and then, so you're gonna miss 2 days of school. You miss Friday and you miss Monday. 2 days of school. It is right after winter break, which maybe that's good, because it's not like finals yet.
Yeah, and those are some long flights. Yeah. And I have memories of kids just doing uninterrupted homework, because I know you're like, oh, how am I going to miss all that? And you actually have a lot of time. No time while you're there. Don't plan homework while you're actually on the trip, Saturday, Sunday. You're not going to have time. Don't plan like there's a lot of students, I don't know about you, who are big athletes and are conditioning, and I only can think of one student who she did get up at 5 in the morning and run stairs. But if you think you can like make exercise time at the hotel gym, there is no time. I offered to run in the morning with her, but I needed extra sleep day.
So if you want to run stairs at 5 in the morning like she did, you can do that. You can let us know. We will not be there to accompany you, but you can do that. But there's no time for the gym. There's no time for extra homework on those days. But those flights, it's 6 hours.
Great for that.
Yeah, there's one.
I might have spaced this out. On the current agenda, is the Holocaust Memorial Museum, are they still doing it?
Yeah.
Have any of you been to the Holocaust Memorial Museum? You have? a couple of people. So this is just, is it the second most or the first most visited museum?
One, yeah.
You know, we start teaching you guys about the Holocaust in around 5th grade. Maybe some of you remember like walking up to Washington Park for the memorial together. And that's kind of when we begin learning about it. And this experience of going to our National Memorial Museum, it's, for those of you that have been there, you know what I'm talking about. It's so powerful. And, you know, as a Jewish group, and Rabbi leads us afterwards, there's it's a Hall of Remembrance, a beautiful rotunda, and we'll do some things together and kind of process some things because it's pretty heavy, you know. But it's something that all of us don't want to, but you should go to, and just know this is a really great group to do that with us. And then for me, the cool thing is, because this is usually on the Sunday, and you sort of see this, like all these things happen to Jewish people, a lot of other people do. And then on Monday, you go and you speak truth to power in a democracy that you live, you know what I mean? It's just so different from what some of our families and ancestors had to face. So that's a big piece of this. And even if you've been before, we do like a special group kind of back way and learning together. And it's something that students tell me was a really impactful thing that they do.
And Rabbi Kahana's mother, Alice Locke Kahana, blessed memory, is actually featured in the museum too. So you can go into this one area and you can hear her tell her story. So it's pretty amazing, even like all of those connections. And it's the same thing. I mean, we've been through this museum. I can't even tell you, especially I used to run these weekends.
I mean, we now
still
go to the special exhibits because we've sort of seen the main
There's still
ones.
things that you haven't seen or taken on. Thanks, Hattie. So I think questions. So it's the 7th, January 7th through January 10th, 1,300, I think is what we said.
It is. Should we talk about the cost?
Just so you know, it's $1,300 for everything for the trip. We also encourage you to bring some spending money, but it covers like the hotel, the flights, the main meals there.
Yes, there's two. It covers most of the meals.
Those two
There's
dinners.
2 meals that it doesn't cover, and that's why you want to have some spending money. And they are usually the Saturday night out in Georgetown, and you can decide. You know, there's all kinds of fun places to eat and all different prices.
And there's always
on
Chipotle.
Sunday, we usually go to this like outdoor mall with an outdoor ice skating rink.
Yeah, Pentagon City.
Pentagon City, and it's kind of restaurants in there, and so you need to bring money for that. But otherwise, it's like every breakfast, lunch. It's your Friday night dinner. If you want to buy some food on the plane, if they let you do that, I don't know. I've been on a plane so long. You want to have some spending money with you. So the 1,300 covers the flight, all the programming, all the transportation when we're there. So we'll have different buses that we take. We get kind of a fancy bus on the last day, but otherwise it's more of like school buses and that kind of thing. But it gets you around DC, which is really, really great. Our synagogue we're so blessed to have designated scholarship help for these trips. And so if you're thinking, okay, yeah, 1,300, we have funds that can help get you there if that feels like it's too much. And that's something that we would just connect with your families about and help you guys out with that.
We do not want money to prevent you from going on this trip. So this is how much it is, and we have scholarship money to use for all these trips, and we want to help people on these trips because they're so important. Barbara? Everybody has to be vaccinated. So everybody has to be vaccinated, everyone's going to be wearing masks. I haven't heard anything about testing separately.
I have not heard anything about testing, and
but we can certainly ask.
Time, since
Yeah, I mean, they have been, I'm going to write down your questions too. It's a great.
So let's see if we can get their full, up-to-date COVID.
But definitely you have to be vaccinated. Everyone has to be vaccinated. Everyone has to be masked. There are fewer students coming. So they're gonna be spread out. I mean, that's actually, the cost has gone up a little bit. So like normally it's 1,200, it's gone up to 1,300. And partially that is because they still want to have the same amount of buses with fewer kids. And so that kind of stuff is just a little bit more, it's a little more expensive. The good thing is that they do these hotel contracts years and years in advance. So we have that, but I think we're still, I mean, actually speaking of this, I think we're still doing 4 to a room. So that is,
okay.
I need to double check that, but I think they were still doing 4 to a room.
Yes.
Whether it's 2 or 4. I mean, we could probably have some, if we decided to do that, it would just up the cost a little bit too. It would just up the cost more, but.
So what Rabbi's referring to is generally there's 4 students in a room, and the chaperones are in different rooms, in their own rooms. And but perhaps if we paid more, we could have less students in the room as a consideration, and so we'll look into that. But normally it kind of ends up being like 3 or 4 kids do a room, and it's fun.
And we could always, not that it would help the larger group, but let's say if we're gonna do still the 4 students, we could require testing before we leave. I mean, then we're gonna be on an airplane, but we could have our own,
Right.
that way too.
Okay.
Other questions?
That's the first kind of question we've ever had about the trip. Like that. That's a sign of the times. Yeah, good one.
Right. They have an insurance.
They do.
And I think you can buy, I think individuals can buy like trip insurance. We have had this in the past.
We have, but not with pandemic related. But
we had it with non-pandemic related.
Cancellation. I think they were refunded some of the money, and it might have been a timing thing. But we can find out about that. Great. Okay, you got us writing down stuff. You're 2 for 2. What other questions? Sometimes we get, is it always, are you rooming with people just from your congregation? And the answer is yes. Generally, we're able, depending on the hotel, to be on the same floor. But remember, we're in a hotel where there's other people staying at the hotel that aren't part of our learning group. And so we gotta be cool guests, and we have other people staying there as well. If you have any kind of special dietary needs or a certain kind of diet, you can tell us in advance, and that's all part of the sign up, and they're really good about that. If you're concerned about that. The food there is generally pretty good. That's been all right.
We try and do kid-friendly food.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, let's see, what else? I'm trying to think. We've done so many different things, over the years. I mean, sometimes depending on how we can't do the night monuments probably this year. Sometimes we've gone and seen the monuments at night. One year there was a rally in a place in DC where it's very common. It was his mother. I'm trying to remember.
Who?
Oh, gosh, this is a number of years ago.
But we went to see Al Sharpton. That was the one I almost got in trouble for.
And what we saw, do you remember the rally?
It was like racial justice.
It was racial justice. Yeah, we went and saw Al Sharpton.
Yes. We just left. It was pretty good.
It was pretty good, but I feel like we made some signs.
We did.
We made some signs, and people were like pretty interested. Like, what are these Jewish kids?
That's when we got in trouble because everybody else on the trip wanted to come and they weren't allowed.
Yeah.
So sometimes we have fun renegade trips. It's really good. And you get to like hang out with us and maybe some other clergy or chaperones, and that's fun.
Yes, yes. Get out of the classrooms and off the campus a little to get to know each other.
So yeah, I've got more.
Yes, the person in the mask there. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, John. Yes.
yes, and the RAC has a setup, you know, here are the issues that we're working with right now, and here's what we're gonna learn about, and they're not gonna change that. And, which I think Jason talked about in the video, you're building the skills to use it in the future. And so my goal is to always say, we're gonna do this in DC, and then we're gonna come back and we're gonna use it here. You know, depending, so we can talk about these issues with our state representation, with our city council and our county commission, you know, that like, let's talk about if there are issues that weren't covered that are important to you, now you understand, let's do some learning from a Jewish perspective, let's write up some talking points, let's make a meeting. Because also, we're really lucky in Oregon in that we're a small state and we can have access to our elected officials. Half the delegation are members of our congregation. So if we don't meet with them on Monday, because Monday actually is a hard day for members of Congress, they're usually flying, that's why we'll see them on the plane, we'll make a time to meet them here. And they will 100%, they love to come and meet with students. And so then maybe we'll throw in, you know, some more things to do it. And they love coming to meet with you because you're so well prepared. Because they know they're gonna have a really good conversation. And it's not just, you know, like they're not actually doing all the talking. You're doing more of the talking, which is really nice.
And if they are there, they will make an effort to see us.
Yeah.
You know, we've met with.
Well, I love, for example,
Yeah.
Senator Wyden. His staff is always, I mean, we know his staff, whatever, and sometimes they're like, oh, we're so sorry, so sorry. And then he will come like busting through the door because he's like, no, I was gonna make time, you know, and they're like, we're so sorry, and he's like, no, let me see you. So
Yeah, or
it is,
we'll be out in the
or
hallway.
yeah, come out in the hall.
Hallway, the kids are like, you know, have your speeches and everything, and we'll have to be like, no, this is happening
Yep,
right
like,
now.
let's go, let's do it.
And they'll just be like, what are you guys interested in? Yeah.
You've like already given your speech to the legislative aid, which actually is super important. We'll learn more about that. And then all of a sudden the member of Congress shows up and you're like, oh, we're doing this again.
Yeah.
Okay, we're doing this again in front of them. And it's fun.
So, and one more thing about your great question, because probably the issues that our lobbying group is lobbying on, most of you are going to align with, but you might not align with all of them. You know, if it's talking about Israel, you may have a different feeling about Israel, or generally, there's always going to be something that really resonates with you and your value system, partly because we're all part of this reform movement, and you're going to find that.
Or we'll set people, what's Rosansky, what's his first name? Jeremy. Or you can set people on a path for a whole different political life, like Jeremy Rosansky.
Yeah.
Went on this trip and decided, I am no longer a Reformed Jew.
Yeah.
And that is okay. Like, you know, and then he, you know, worked for the Tikva Fund, and I'm not sure, do you know where he's working now? But like, which is it's another amazing Jewish organization, and it's a much more conservative, perspective.
Thank you for that example.
And that's okay, you know.
He does fantastic work. If there's an issue that you wanted us to know about beforehand that was a really burning issue, we can talk about it, and if you do the work, a lot of times at the end of when we meet with people, there's a few minutes, and sometimes they ask us, hey, is there anything else that you want to know about, you know? And then that's a good time to kind of slip some things in, especially if you're prepared and we know about it, we can help advocate.
Yep, great.
Yeah.
Kendra Green, do you have anything you want to share?
Oh, thank you. You know, I'm thinking about a student that I was with, and it was before the marriage equality legislation, you know, happened. And we were on a hill, and she was lobbying that people should be able to marry who they love, no matter how they identify. And at the time, we had a very conservative Senator, Gordon Smith.
Yep, he became.
And she was in Gordon Smith's office, they were not feeling the same way that you should marry who you love, right? And this student was like, I think maybe I had heard her like speak never really said it. And we're in Gordon Smith's office, and she had written this beautiful speech about marriage equality and justice, and she grew down and had done all this research. It's like, like she talked about like when people, interracial couples, like weren't allowed to marry, and aren't we all embarrassed about that? And aren't we gonna like look back and just be like, what are you kidding me? And it was just this moment. And then of course,
I was going to say the end of that story is Gordon Smith became a champion. So actually I was a lobbyist and I worked on marriage equality, and Gordon Smith subsequently, and this was one of those moments because of a student who was a constituent coming, he became the Republican champion. It didn't actually happen. It didn't happen in the Senate, but he totally changed it. But not only did he change his mind, he became a champion of the legislation in the Senate. So he led the Republican Party on marriage equality. And we were fighting against the federal marriage amendment. So I knew nothing of Oregon. This is a long time ago. And I used to work very closely with Gordon Smith. And it's so fun to like see that connection that like, that what you guys say really is impactful. Recently, Kurt Schrader wanted nothing to do with gun violence prevention. And we had a student, and he was the only one from that district, so he had to go to this meeting by himself with one of us, and Schrader signed on to the bill. And the gun advocacy organizations actually wrote to us. Do you remember this?
Yeah.
And we're like, thank you so much. We have not been able to get anything, and your student moved him to co-sponsor this bill. So, I mean, it really makes a difference. That was like a few years, that was only like 3 years ago.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Just so, I know that as students, a lot of times you're doing projects and you're practicing things, and then this is a real thing that actually really impacts people, and you are really representing us. And some of the things that they'll teach you about, but to get you thinking about it, like, how many people, even adults, take the time to even call the representative, or to even more write a letter, or send an email? Like, we hear from offices that not that many.
Yeah.
And so for you to study, to spend $1,300, to get on an airplane, to fly across the country, like you have their attention. And you're with an organization that has garnered their respect. So if you take it seriously, they're very ready to take it seriously. And this is really something that I've learned as a chaperone. When we've had people on the floor read your lobby speeches word for word because they've been so moved by that. So it's just so cool because it's like so real world.
So if you have anything you want to talk to us separately about, you can feel free to talk to us separately. When do we need to sign up? Like yesterday?
We do. And you all got a link from Chelsea. You got an email.
So you
is there a deadline that we gave you?
Parents, and we'll make sure those of you who don't have adults here with you, you actually have to register. Like everybody gets their own, I think it's even like a Campminder.
It's like a Campminder.
A Campminder account. So you have to register your student. We can't do that for you. But I do know the deadline is soon because it's October something.
Yes.
We'll find out and let you know. And we'll bug you and we'll call you and.
Yes, we will.
You'll find it. But let us know if there's anything else that we can answer question-wise, or if you want to talk one-on-one. Okay.
156, my friend.
We did it.
We didn't put them through the quiz, but that's okay. Next time.
Quiz. We'll do a quiz another time. Thank you for those online. Thank you, Hattie.
Thank you, Hattie.
Thank you. Thank you.
Think about going to DC. Let us know, and have a great week.
Have a great week.
We'll see you next time. And all those that were Madrahim this morning, thank you so much.
Yeah, good job.
We'll make a little smoother for the little guys coming in and out. We're learning.
I'm gonna just bring them all out.
Everybody was safe, and I'm very happy.
Bring them all out.
So thank you.
All right, everyone, I'm going to close the Zoom now. Thank you so much for joining us. And if you have any questions, you can reach out to Ben and Rabbi Joseph. Wonderful.